in my bag. So soft and so tender. Daddy in the kitchen and he told me, son, listen. He said, you don't have to play the part that they wrote for you. You don't have to play.
Hello, everyone. I'm Rich Robbins. Welcome to this week's episode of Soft and Tender, where each week we explore Black fatherhood through conversations between the sons that they've raised. Our goal is to highlight the unique and universal aspects of love in Black families, showcasing how these fathers express love and care despite societal challenges, along with broadening our understanding of what fatherhood means and how that meaning can evolve. Before we dive into this week's discussion, let me introduce our guests for this week. To my far right, we've got Bragard, interdisciplinary artist and communication strategist. To my near right, we've got MFn Melo, pivot gang enthusiast and father. And to my left, we've got Bekoe, founder of Illanoize Radio and morning host on Vocalo Radio. Gentlemen, welcome. Thank you for being here. I appreciate y'all being here. I think the best way to kick off this particular conversation is just telling us a little bit about your primary father figure growing up. Who are they and where are they from? Bragard, we could kick it off with you.
Awesome. So I guess I could start with my pops and my uncle. I was raised in the church, so my uncle was the pastor of my church. And then when my dad came to this country, he worked alongside my uncle as a pastor as well. So going to church on Sundays, having like community events during the week, like that was kind of my primary source of just like not only seeing leadership with how they led and did community organization stuff. And then, those two are really the primary ones. They're from the DRC Congo. So immigrating to this country through their various paths, they were both very different. But to get here was a journey in itself. So like seeing them do that and then lead stuff in America was crazy. So,
wow, that's amazing. Yeah. I had no idea that was your story. That's what's up. Right. Uncle and father. Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Bad. Melo, how about you?
I would say for myself personally, it was probably like a collective sort of situation. My father is and was in my life, but like the relationship there wasn't as like personal, so a lot of my information, it came from watching him, of course, watching my uncles. I have several uncles, but just watching like TV. I'm very observant. So like I feel like even young, I understood that I was grasping things from a lot of different areas because the one particular area like wasn't really the most ideal situation of fatherhood. But I learned a lot of things from it. So I will include my father in that, but I will say that I've got a lot of things from just like observing the world, whether it be my own personal world or television, movies, things like that, just getting my information from there and like kind of like applying it or like dissecting it as such.
Yeah. Is there any TV or movie character that is like particularly that stands out to you?
Not necessarily. But I will say like I watched like a lot of like Black sitcoms and stuff like that growing up. So a lot of those dads and like a lot of the ones that I watched a lot, like Martin and Jimmy Fox, like they weren't necessarily dads, but they had dads come on the show and things like that. Yeah. So like it was really a large pool of things. John Witherspoon. Yeah. You feel me? Uncle Carl. Yeah. You feel me? Uncle Phil and Carl Winslow too, though. Yeah. You feel me? So it's like my dad, my uncles, you see my cousins. I got a friend that had a child early on. Like I'm everywhere with it. I try not to take one particular ideal of fatherhood and apply it. Everywhere.
Yeah, I like that. I feel like a lot of Black men probably do have some fictional Black men that have raised them in a sense. That's beautiful. Yeah. Bekoe, how about you?
I mean, like Bragard said, his father traveled, migrated here, and my father did as well. He's from Ghana originally. He made it here through music. So, I mean, that was really how he got me to where I am today, was just him taking me to studio sessions, him keeping me around those who were creative. I remember he would, bring people to the house and they would literally have jam sessions in the basement. Dang. So that kind of like put me onto certain spaces within how to grow myself. So I would definitely say my father, and I got to also highlight my brothers, because when my father wasn't there, I'm with my brothers mainly throughout the day. So, of course, learning the ins and outs of how to maintain friends or learning the ins and outs of good and bad. I got that from my brother. So definitely I look at them as father figures as well, because I'm the baby. So,
okay. So I'm the oldest. So I definitely, I hope that I can be there for my younger brother for sure. How much younger are you?
I'm the baby.
Yeah.
Real. I want to say, I'm about 5 years is the oldest.
Okay.
Then my other oldest brother is 4 years ahead of me.
Got you. I think I'm 11 years older than my brother. So he like very much was like a third. I think the way that I perceived it was like very much like a kind of like a pseudo father for him, you know. And now that he's an adult, that's kind of shifting a little bit. But definitely feel all of this in terms of who the primary father figure is, but then also like some of the other influences in our lives too. Bouncing off of that, you know, I was thinking about what do we all kind of have in common, or what do you all have in common as a collective group, right? And one thing that really stood out is that each of you individually create a lot of safe space for other people to foster their creativity or navigate their personalities or just growth in general, right? Can you guys share a little bit about maybe a particular time or an instance where one of your fathers or father figures created safe space for you? And what kind of impact that had on you? You know, maybe it could be through a single story, or maybe it can be kind of a general quality about these people. But Bekoe, we could start with you.
Definitely, like I mentioned earlier, with my father doing music and bringing a band through to the basement of our house. That was, to me, one of the biggest safe spaces, because it showed me teamwork, it showed me team building, it showed me how to deal with different personalities. And then not only that, he would also take me to studios with him, studio sessions. So in a way, it kind of showed me the business side of things and how to converse with people within the business and just have the business mentality or create a business model. So I feel like that was one of the safest spaces he could have put me in, because it taught me the most as I grew older of like how to really interact and deal with people and just know what I wanted for myself in a creative space. So
yeah, and it's not always easy to navigate those spaces without some type of mentorship. It's very easy to take advantage of people in those scenarios when somebody's young in those spaces, you know. So it's good that you had that type of mentorship throughout that.
It was a blessing.
Yeah,
most definitely.
Oh, for sure. We'll go to Melo and then Bragard.
I would probably have to say like piggybacking off what some of Bekoe was saying, like I'm also the baby. So like my older brother kind of, as I got older, I think he kind of understood like how my father was. We don't share the same father, but he did grow up with my father. So he kind of understood how he was, and he kind of like big brothered me, and so to speak. You know what I'm talking about? He's kind of like chill as well as I am. But I can notice several times looking back in my younger years where I can like just remember him bringing me in about certain situations, whether it be our parents or like what I may be dealing with at school or outside of school. Like when I moved and stuff like that, he was one of the first people. My brother and my cousins also. Like I said, I'm the baby, so like even as far as my cousins, like I'm like one of the youngest. Yeah. So it's like I got a lot of older cousins, mostly of the men as well. So it was kind of like they was prepping me on a lot of things that I was either dealing with or was gonna have to deal with. Yeah. So I would definitely have to credit them to being like some of the primary, not the primaries, but like giving me that space to like just express whatever feeling or emotion I was dealing with at the time, and like kind of nurture it for me.
Even just peeping that there was a void to be filled, and they took it upon themselves to step into that. Yeah, that's amazing.
That was tight. Yeah. I didn't never really even think about it until like kind of right now. Yeah. Realistically, they're like, man, they was doing a lot for me. Yeah. That I wasn't really even peeping like at the time as those steps. Right. But it helped a lot for sure.
Yeah. For sure. We're going to piggyback off of that later. That's a very rare thing, I think, you know, to experience in life. But also an amazing thing to experience in life. Bragard, how about you?
I'd definitely say with my uncle, as I mentioned before, like we would have a lot of community events at my church, and I went to public school, so I would know all the kids I went to school with, but I didn't realize until later in school, like I remember 6th grade this happened. We would have a lot of community events, a lot of them youth oriented. So I would like literally just go to church on a Tuesday and we would do a bunch of activities like with a bunch of kids. And in my head, I'm like, I'm just going to these activities just cause, like, you know what I'm saying? Like I go to this church and I know all these kids, you know what I'm saying? But I'll never forget in 6th grade, I went to a new school for the first time. And this girl recognized me, and she was like, she said my uncle's name, and like church and school felt completely different.
Yeah.
So when she said, she's like, ain't your uncle so-and-so? I'm like, yeah. She like, and your cousin Sammy? I'm like, yeah. And like, this is like the first week of school. I'm like, how do you know these people? Like, how do you know these people? They're like, I used to come to church all the time. We used to hang out. Like, do you remember? And I'm like, wow, like, it opened my worldview because like those felt like two separate worlds. Yeah. And so I could see like, and the funny part about going to that church, my uncle, I was actually a member of the church before my mom. He offered to take me to that church on a Sunday when she had to work. So he basically picked me up in a stroller, brought me to church, and that's how I met all his kids, all my cousins. And I was the first member of that church before my mom. And so like I realized like that was my induction to like being like social because I was an only child for a while. So like having that like weekly like, oh, just hanging out with other kids that I don't know, I don't go to school with, was like a, wow, this is like I can play outside of school, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then when that thing happened in 6th grade, it clicked with me like, oh, I know more people in my hometown than I think I do.
Yeah.
And they know me personally. And like it was like very warm to feel that because it was a new school, like I said. So like I definitely credit my uncle doing that for me when I was younger because I was like, I remember that just took me aback. I literally was sitting down. I remember in art class, I'm like, gee, this is crazy. You know my uncle. Yeah, and everybody looking at him like, why is that crazy, G? That's just your uncle. I'm like, that's my African uncle, bro. It don't get any crazier than that. But I definitely credit that to my uncle. And then my dad, when he moved over here, he as I said, I grew up as an only child. So like getting more siblings as time went on, like I had to learn how to be an older brother. I didn't start out that way. And I think that like definitely shifted my mind view, like my view set on a lot of things, because it's like an only child to an older brother, 11 years in is crazy. Yeah. And I was a kid. So you know what I'm saying? So like I had to grow into that. And so those two things like definitely rounded out my social realm and made me feel very safe in terms of like messing up or like being a little kid when I like react to things differently when I was used to other things. Yeah. So those two are definitely building blocks in how I came to be. Yeah.
So I was an only child for 8 years, and then my sister was born, and then a couple years later my brother was born. So I definitely feel you. And I was the only cousin for a minute too, and so like I was like. It was like king of the castle for real, like in any setting, you know. And so that is a big shift going from that to now I have to like help raise this other person, you know. But you said something that really stuck out to me, which is that your uncle essentially facilitated community for you, you know, and introduced community into your life. And I want to continue that idea of. And Melo, I'm going to direct this question to you. You know, obviously being a member of Pivot Gang, which is such a monumental rap group and just collective in general for the Chicago music scene, for myself as an artist, you know, I think I speak for a lot of artists when I say thank you to y'all, you know. Yeah. But I'm curious, what lessons have you learned from your father or father figures about community building and nurturing spaces where Black children in particular and Black families can thrive?
I think one of the biggest lessons I learned from just watching and observing is that you got to be present. A lot of people get caught up on like trying to be the best you could be, and that's cool. But like most importantly, just being present within that community and showing yourself, showing your want to be there, showing your passion for the growth of it in all aspects is more important than like how great you are at whatever you're trying to accomplish. I think with the idea of everybody just showing up and trying to be as present and being aware of we only go as far as we go together is like the real key into it. Yeah. I can't say that I learned a lot of that from my father, for sure. He was kind of to himself, you know what I'm saying? Which in turn made me kind of to myself. But as I got older and I experienced more different relationships with fathers or father figures and things like that, or just men in general that were not so to themselves, not so closed off. Yeah. I understood the importance of it because I felt it, you know what I'm saying? I went a long time thinking that it didn't really matter to me. Yeah. But it kind of did. And I didn't really know it until I was able to be a part of it and feel what it does. Yeah. And really understand the value in it. You know, I didn't know the value of it for a long time, though. I can't say that.
Hi, I'm Darius Hillman. Joining me on the next edition of In the Arena, a champion of inclusion and belonging, the indomitable and stoic Nikki Lang.
Anyone that's new to DEI and B, this is definitely shaking their confidence.
Join the conversation Tuesday at 7 p.m. on CAN TV Cable Channel 19 and streaming on cantv.org and the CAN TV Plus app. Experience the power of community television.
I'm in my bag. So soft and so tender.
I'm learning a lot about you right now, honestly. You know, like it's awesome to be able to put some of these things into context, because I feel like you've been so present for events that, like, for lack of a better term, I'm like, oh, Melo don't have to be at this event, you know, like, but like you've become kind of a big brother figure to a lot of people in the community, you know, and to hear that. That's kind of how you got brought up, is like your big brothers and big cousins, like filling in these voids. Yeah. You are a direct spitting image of that, you know, like you are a complete reflection of that. And you show that, you don't just tell it, you know. This is the first time that I'm being told that, but I've seen it a lot, you know. That's really dope. Now, in terms of, you know, nourishing the next generation, Bekoe, you are a master at this, right? Like your radio shows and the platforms that you have really, I think, been a home for a lot of artist development and a lot of various generations. You know, can you speak a little bit about, and you've touched on this a little bit, but can you speak a little bit more about how your relationship maybe to your uncle or to father figures, you know, older siblings, whatnot, what did that do to your mind frame in terms of, you know, having this passion for building platforms for the next generation?
You know, it's interesting that you say an uncle, because I haven't met many of my uncles outside of one. One of my uncles passed before I even landed. But I remember he was also business savvy. He was into tech. Yeah. And I had spent a lot of time with him. So just being around him and my cousin taught me a lot. Like, I've always been around business, which I'm sitting here learning now. Like you said, with my father and his band, and just seeing how they operate, and then me venturing off into my own world of things and just being in love with music. I literally live my life off energy and feeling and passion, and that's honestly through his genes. It's like hereditary. Like I started off doing music because of seeing what he was doing. That's literally how I fueled my passion, man. Just being there witnessing the process of things, being there seeing how it takes time to create. That's what elevated me to, like, okay, if I'm gonna build something, I have to understand that it's gonna take time. Yeah. It literally took time for my father to get here from where he was, how he always used to say, man, I used to walk to school. We had dirt roads and I didn't even have shoes. It took him time from doing that to getting on that boat, which took time for him to get here to build what he created. So that's one thing mentally that I had to understand, that nothing's gonna come overnight. Some things do, but if you really wanna build a legacy and really create a space for creatives, it takes time. So, you know, that's what I learned as I started to create these spaces for artists like, you know, MFn Melo, for some of the greats here, because we got a big pot of gumbo here in Chicago. Yeah. And it's a blessing that you even say, like, master my work. I don't even look at things like that. I'm the type of person that, and this is literally from my father. My mom told me this not too long ago. She said, your father would give his last for his people, and he would lose out on so much because he keep giving. And she was like, you do the same thing. You give so much. And though it's hard, it's a passion. Like, though I'm making myself happy, I make myself happy by giving. So to be able to give a space that's helping artists elevate more, not even artists, just entrepreneurs, creatives in general, grow more, I shout out to my pops for even embedding that in me. So, man, I'm appreciative of this platform because I get to learn so much about y'all. You know, this is really one of the first times that we've had a full-blown conversation. Right. And for it to be so informative about, like, you know, I watch you all the time on the socials or whatever, you know, and this gives me like a very human perspective on all of it, really. So thank you for opening up about that, for real. No problem. Shout out Pops.
Hey, shout out Pops. Bragard, So your work in the communication field and artist management and such has brought you all over the nation, really. I feel like a lot of times we talk, it was like, yeah, I was just in Cali, I was just in so-and-so, you know. Through your travels and through your experiences, how have you seen Black fathers navigate, or even, let's just expand it a little bit more, you know, just Black folks in general navigate creating safe spaces for youth? And I know that obviously you are in the youth field as well. How have you seen Black folks creating safe spaces for youth in a world where they are really stripped and told that they don't deserve safe spaces or they don't deserve safety in general?
I've definitely seen it because it's an outreach thing. So like, I kind of see it as like two hands extending to each other. Like it takes the youth to reach their hand out and say like, we want to bridge this gap, and it takes the people older than them to do the same. And I think as I've like, you know, grown and my friends have grown, we don't all live in the same place anymore. And like, we're all over the map. I can kind of see like the imprint of how like their fathers and the men in their life have like guided them to like be secure in their decisions. And so I think when it comes to, as I've grown older, I've just seen it as like, it's got to be hand in hand. And it just depends on if you can accept where you're at in that time and place. Like, I think when I'm younger and I think of kids that are younger, they're like, the world is so much ahead of you that you're like, I got to take it all now. And then as you grow older, you realize like, no, you got to take it step by step. Like it's not all going to come immediately. So when you bridge that gap, I think there comes a point where like there's this like fusion of like helping each other along. Because like, and I felt like this, I've grown to understand this, but like I always thought like once you're older, you just get it. You know what I'm saying? You just figure it out. Like, you know what I'm saying? And that's how like adults almost like show themselves until it's like I ain't got no McDonald's money because, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's always like a lesson, but like the reality is like, as you go older, you're still learning. And so like one thing that I like definitely like a fond memory of my pops, like so when he came to this country, he didn't like know English that well. And so like, but he never made it seem like, oh, I don't know English, I'm not gonna like try to, figure it out. This man would sit and watch cartoons with me. And one of this is still crazy to me, G. He would watch Naruto with me every Saturday on Toonami. Mind you, an African man watching a Japanese cartoon.
Wow,
in the moment, I'm like, this is cool. Like we watch this Saturday nights before bed. We go to church the next day. But then I remember like he would be like, are we watching Naruto tonight? And I was like, dang, like we watched this together. And my mom, and I remember one of the first sermons he did, he was like, he credited me for like learning English because we would not only watch these things together, but then talk about them. And so like, even as a kid, I didn't realize like what we were doing when I think is just us hanging out. It was like him like having humility and being like, I don't know this well enough. My son is talking to me all the time. Let me talk to him. You know what I'm saying? And that like that's a big thing. Like, you ever ask someone to watch cartoons with you now as an adult? Like, you know what I'm saying? But like people be like, I got to do this. I got to do this. You know what I'm saying? But like he worked nights. Like he was giving his time to not only like connect with me on a level that was like realistic to our relationship, but also like it was benefiting him as well. Like literally, I watched him go from like minimal to no English to speaking in complete sentences to like working with me on my homework. And mind you, he came when I was in like 5th grade. So like we still doing do these words in ABC order, write sentences with these words. He would look at my homework like, and like we would sit down and do it, but it was almost like we were just learning together. And like those things like seem very minuscule in the moment because like I'm in 5th grade. Who want to do homework, G? Not me. But like at the same time, it's like I got to sit down and do this. You know what I'm saying? So I think like when both sides like have this sort of humility of like we have to build together, it kind of just happens. Because it's specific to you and yours. It's very specific. It's not there's not a one size fits all. Because I realized the older I got how crazy that was. Like he wanted to watch Naruto, G, the awful American dub of Naruto, bro. And he was excited. And I think that's so cool. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, like you got to really try to bridge the gap. So you have to try. And I think that's like, there's a lot of fear in that on both sides. Like you have to humble yourself to that point. And like, I'm even feeling it now with my siblings, like they're going through things that I've never experienced. And I have to like bring myself to a level that like understands what they're going through.
On the next Hustle, Play, Love, I'm talking to an expert in artificial intelligence on how this technology is shaking up industries. And a journalist in Christian media joins me to discuss how the pandemic and generational perspectives are changing the way some people are practicing their faith. Join the conversation Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. on CanTV Cable Channel 19 or stream live on cantv.org or on the CanTV Plus app. Experience the power of community television.
I'm in my bag. So soft and so tender.
So you said a couple things that really stood out to me. Number one, shout out Pops for watching some Naruto with you. My dad used to watch Dragon Ball Z with me until he realized how violent it was, and he was like, "I don't think you should be watching this anymore." So that backfired for me, but I'm glad that it didn't backfire for you. But you said something that really stuck out, which was having humility. Both sides got to have humility, right? And this will be the last question for us. What are some ways that we can kind of further support Black men in creating these spaces for not just youth, but just each other, right? This whole conversation has been centered around creating spaces for folks. Humility and encouraging humility is one. What are some other ways that we can be supportive of each other, making sure that, I know that I'm supporting you in continuing to create these spaces?
I look at it like, in order to continue to build and create unity, first and foremost, a lot of fathers, we big on pride and things of that nature. But we got to take that ego away and understand that putting our pride to the side is what continues to build that shift, and which is needed not just for us, but the next generation's next generation. So I feel like, that's one. And then another is, like we spoke earlier, you just have to be there. Got to be there. Like how you spoke on Melo, I didn't expect you to be at this event, but it was there. So I feel like, we have to be there for one another. Whether if you can't make time for it, find a way to do something to be there, be present. And I feel like that, that'll help out in the long run.
Echo that for sure.
I would say respect things you don't understand. A lot of times when you see something that you don't really like, you're not used to or accustomed to, or you don't believe it to be the best way to go about something, you'll probably dismiss it or not try to hear it out as much. I think as men, we do that a lot. Like if my homie doing something that I think is lame, I'm not really gonna listen to it. You know what I'm talking about? When I should, like that's just my opinion. So I think just respecting the things you don't understand and looking to further your understanding of them will be very pivotal in moving forward, no pun intended.
Yeah, and the older we get too, the less likely we are to like try to learn something new.
Exactly.
And we just write it off like, I don't get it, so
that's not for me.
That's my struggle with TikTok right now. But
for us all,
right.
But we learning as we go.
We learning. Thank y'all. This I think real talk, like TV stuff aside, I think that this is a really good realignment for myself of keeping humble and just knowing that when you are present for people, it pays off, and it pays off in ways that are maybe not so much for you, but it's for the person next to you. It's for whoever you are showing up for, to support. That is just as important as feeding yourself, Right. So appreciate y'all. Yeah. Thank y'all.
I appreciate you for this platform, for allowing us, not just us, like everybody that comes through, to highlight father figures. I feel like that needs to be shown a lot more. So definitely want to say appreciate you for that.
Agreed. Thank y'all for supporting that, for real.
Thank you for having us.
Fatherhood is beautifully vast. It can span from biological relation to chosen family. Black fatherhood is particularly beautiful. It's had to endure generations of misunderstanding and mislabeling. We hope this conversation shed some light and brought more insight to your own relationships at home. Thank you for tuning into our Soft and Tender World today. Continue the conversation by following us at Soft and Tender Series on Instagram and TikTok, and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Soft and Tender. Until next time, I'm Rich Robbins. Good night.
He said, you don't have to play the part that they wrote for you. You don't have to play the part. I'm like, how he do that twice? Why that boy so nice? Why he cuffed the mic like a baby bite? So soft and tender. Bet he like that in any weather. Bet he only bite if he don't get it twisted. I be in the gym ready to box. Why would I not? Niggas out here creeping hard on the block. My pops taught me if you can't win the fight with your brain, you could definitely throw a hand.